We're in a space where no one's saying, I need to buy XYZ in the next year. We're telling them what they should focus on, and we're bringing that education through this blue sky kind of category creation, and being able to explain to them why they should care about it. And the easiest way for us to do that is through data-driven campaigns. And then fortunately, within the digital world that we live in today, we can use data on the back end to confirm if that was successful. Are we moving the needle on public perception? That's a really hard thing to be able to quantify. And so having kind of standard data points of where people were on a public perception or opinion level, showing them the campaign, going through the education process, demystifying the technology, and being able to show how much they've advanced in that understanding, that skepticism, that familiarity level. Those are important data points for us to understand to make sure we're moving the needle in the right way. So it's fun to work on campaigns that really start and truly end with data. So I started my career in sales. I actually have a degree in sales. So my college was spent focused on how to interact with people, sales, purposeful questioning, and focused on that as a career path, and got out of college and went to Johnson & Johnson for one of their sales leadership development programs. And so I was selling pharmaceuticals and medical devices for them and really loved what I was doing. But a great part of a leadership development program is it gives you a view into other functions at the company. And when I did an event marketing kind of rotation, so they have you do your core sales role, but then you also get to do projects within other departments to see what you like, I realized that I was gravitating towards the marketing end of things. And obviously sales goes hand in hand with that. So after that role, I used my sales skills to move to a startup focused on advertising technology to sell solutions into marketers. So when you're selling something, you need to know it better than even the users do. And so that was how I got into the mind of marketers, what they're focused on every day, and being able to solve some of the problems that they have. And so I was selling those advertising technology solutions to them. From there, I pivoted into actually using those solutions, and was a social media and mobile marketing manager for one of the biggest advertising agencies in the world, focusing on automotive. And I'm actually from Detroit, so it was a perfect fit for me. My background has always been geared towards automotive, mobility, and really loved doing that. And then when I moved from the Bay Area, where I was at the time, back to Detroit to be closer to family, I pivoted and joined Ford Motor Company directly, and was there for a while, working in different capacities throughout global marketing. So kind of building from that sales background into more of that marketing focused responsibility. And then today I'm at Airspace Link, where I'm the vice president of marketing and communications, focused on mobility solutions as well, but looking to the sky instead of on the road. So Airspace Link is a technology company focused on integrating drones into communities and into the national airspace. My favorite campaign that I've been able to work on was actually a partnership with Ford and Versace. Not two names that or brands that you would normally think would go together. But my favorite part about that was that Versace was looking for brands to show in their fall campaign to talk about this new concept of the changing things that define what makes a man in a man's opinion. And one of the things that they were thinking about was what kind of car you drive and how that's part of your personality. And being someone in automotive marketing, that's always been something that's very clear to us is, it's not just a vehicle to get you from point A to point B. People really think of it as a lifestyle choice and a choice about who they are as their personal brand. And so when this opportunity came about, it just seemed like a perfect fit to show that Ford globally is just an icon of automotive history. And so that was why they were able to partner versus going with maybe a more exclusive brand that has more of that luxury Versace type of brand equity. They were really looking at what's that globally renowned, iconic, synonymous with automotive, and that was Ford. And so that was really fun to put together because it brought us into a new audience in a way that we wanted to be, where maybe people of a certain age weren't talking about Ford as that iconic status. Seeing those two mashed up really solidified that and helped it. And there's kind of a question around how do you know a brand is iconic? And I think when you're asked to be a part of some of these things, that was a really solidifying or validating thing for us to be a part of, to say, we're not telling you we're iconic, other people are. And so that felt really good, and was a fun one to be a part of and have some fun with the brand, and do something different for me professionally, where I'm not usually going to fashion shows. So it was very fun. What's interesting at Airspace Link is that we start and end everything with data. So from our product is a data product at its core. We take the ground data from authoritative local sources. We add on about 60 different layers of data from proprietary, individual, verified third-party sources. And then we also map that with FAA data, which in the US is the Airspace Authority. And so we put all of that together to create a platform to better understand the landscape for low altitude operations of drones. And so we're always starting with data because it's a new concept that we're introducing to the public. And so we need to have that data to have people understand what we're talking about, and leading with not only informed landscape, but also what are those benefits, so we can see that you're going to be able to serve 80% of your community safely with drones based on what those routing algorithms tell us are, safe and appropriate areas from an airspace risk perspective, but also from a ground risk perspective. So we're always looping in data from start to finish of what we're doing. And how that translates into campaign planning is that we need an understanding of what to focus on, what people need to hear. And it's fun because we're generating that data. We're in a space where no one's saying, I need to buy XYZ in the next year. We're telling them what they should focus on, and we're bringing that education through this blue sky kind of category creation, and being able to explain to them why they should care about it. And the easiest way for us to do that is through data-driven campaigns. And then fortunately, within the digital world that we live in today, we can use data on the back end to confirm if that was successful. Are we moving the needle on public perception? That's a really hard thing to be able to quantify. And so having kind of standard data points of where people were on a public perception or opinion level, showing them the campaign, going through the education process, demystifying the technology, and being able to show how much they've advanced in that understanding, that skepticism, that familiarity level. Those are important data points for us to understand to make sure we're moving the needle in the right way. So it's fun to work on campaigns that really start and truly end with data. My first interaction with data that helped me understand the power of numbers within marketing and having that data supported decision making was doing a trade show audit when I worked for Johnson & Johnson. It became clear how disparate the data sets were and how hard it was for marketers to really show that return on investment in an easy, quantifiable way that really told the story, because there's data and then there's what the data tells you. And so being able to transform the data of how many people we had at the booth, being able to track things like that, how much attendance we had, how many deals were created out of that, how much brand perception, brand lift we might have had from that. Seeing how difficult it was to connect that is actually what drove me into a career focused on advertising technology, or my next career move focused on that, because there is such a need for that strong data to be able to say, this isn't just a feeling, this isn't just what I'm thinking, this is the concrete reasons of why we should make X decision over Y. So I think that was really eye-opening and has been why my career has focused more on digital side of things and in the beginning, and expanded out through there, because I think that skill set just serves us as marketers with so much data being out in the world today, being able to really use that and help us advance what we're trying to do with concrete decision making based on data. Being in a startup, growth metrics are always really important to us. and being able to see that validation of a new technology, a new industry. So any type of growth metric has always been really helpful, but diving into some of those and understanding if it's a powerful metric has been really important. So understanding things like growth for growth's sake versus actionable growth items, so long-term value. It's really hard to prove long-term value or understand long-term value when you've only been in business for a few years, but getting those indicators have been really helpful for us. And then on the customer side, the customer recognition of the product is really important for us. So that net promoter score, items like that are incredibly important, especially with a company that is product centric and services centric, where we're delivering for our customers, making sure that, we're not just getting customers and growing our customer base, but our customers are satisfied with what we're providing and would recommend us to another. I think that's always been my favorite metric as a marketer, as net promoter score, because you can sell people stuff. It doesn't mean that they love it or that they want to tell their friends to do it too. So I think that's a really important organizational health metric for us. I think anything that can, any feature or product that I've bought that connects tools that I use has been really helpful for me. So especially working for a startup where I'm wearing a lot of different hats, having a reminder, having an integration that helps what I'm doing in product marketing, connected with comms, connected with social media, connected with offline communications, newsletters, things like that. Anything that helps connect what I'm doing helps me as a marketer, both when I have a small team and also when we're scaling into larger teams, because that continuity, that consistency from a brand perspective is so important. Anything that helps me do that subconsciously is really helpful, because those are one of those items that you kind of take for granted, that continuity, that consistency across the organization. Being smaller, if you only have a couple person marketing team, it's a lot easier to do. As you get bigger, it becomes harder, but it's always important across small and large teams. So anything that can help, connecting the dots, keeping things easier from that perspective is always helpful for me. I think it will only become more important as we're seeing a shift in media landscape away from, consumption to trust. We need to verify more and more. You're seeing platforms do that, understand where that content is coming from, so you can understand the nuances around what you're consuming. And I think there's a real problem around trust between humans and trust between companies and trust between government. And so that only grows communications and PR functions importance, and really breaking through some of the noise and making sure that the companies are staying authentic, staying consistent, building trust with consumers, and helping them to understand what they're consuming, and helping them have trust in what they're doing. So I think it's very important, and also could easily have more negative consequences than it could have in the past, because people are more skeptical and just more concerned with that authenticity and truth coming through in these areas. I think the more that you can get engaged, get involved, start to build your own sense of what's working for you, I think it's really easy to jump in and say, well, that person has a master's and they've worked for 15 years, and so I'm not going to speak up in a room that they're in. And I think it's really easy to fall into that trap. But if they're a good communications professional, communications executive, they're going to be listening for what they don't know, and getting that feedback, because they're not marketing to people or communicating with people who know what they're doing necessarily, right? It's not about that. It's about those people and getting in their minds and their thoughts and their hearts. So just remembering that everyone's voice is really valuable, can be really helpful, and having their own perspective versus doing what someone thinks you should do. It's really a profession where you can have data-driven decisions like we've talked about, but there isn't a right or wrong answer. There's building a case for what you think is right and then standing behind it. And sometimes things don't work out. We never tell engineers when a product fails or they have to rewrite their code that it's a failure. It's just part of the process. And I think marketers and PR professionals forget that sometimes, that we're the same way. You know, you do the best that you can with the data that you have at the time. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. And come back and try again and fail fast, rapid prototype, all of the learnings that we tend to celebrate in more of the technical professions should be celebrated in PR and comms as well. And, you know, nobody's going to get it right 100% of the time. And being able to embrace that, I think will help people with confidence, with feeling like they can contribute more.